Okay, I wanted to stop here because I mentioned that Locustdale Academy was a great big house that sat right there where Willingham is. But I wanted to make a quick shout out about Willingham and some other buildings on campus. I mentioned FDR a minute ago. By the way, I'm not political. I'm just talking history here. Okay, my father-in-law was very political, but anyway, during FDR's administration, you know, what he called the New Deal, he had all kinds of organizations putting people to work, what it amounted to. There was one group of architects that went all over the country measuring minutely and photographing historic places. In Florence, they did a Sweetwater Mansion, they did the Forks of Cypress Mansion, and so on. And because of that, through on the website, the Historic American Building Survey, we just call it HABS. If you go online and go to HABS, you'll find all of the pictures of Sweetwater and Forks of Cypress and other local landmarks. But one of the many programs that came out that were done during the New Deal was the Civilian Conservation Corps, just usually referred to as the CCC, right? We're all about acronyms. Why say Civilian Conservation Corps when you say CCC, right? But there are several examples of work done by the Civilian Conservation Corps on this campus. One of them is Willingham Hall. It was done in the 30s by the CCC. And I have to really rag on them because their work was not slipshod in any form or fashion. Everything they did was absolutely beautifully and sturdily built. There's down at the stadium, at Brawley Stadium, there's a wall on Royal Avenue where you can tell which part of it is new, but the part that looks older, of course, that's CCC work. The president's home here on this campus that we just passed, and I didn't make reference to it, but the president's home was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. So there were really lots of good things that came out of that. Now, while we're standing here, I want you to imagine that none of this, all of this beautiful pedestrian walkway was not here, obviously. There was a street, a little short street that ran from Irving up to Wood Avenue called Morrison Avenue. Just a little short street named for Zebulon Pike Morrison, who built Wesleyan Hall, and we'll talk about him a little more when we get up there. But that street then accommodated, between 1902 and 1932, the streetcar line that ran from Tuscumbia across the what we call the old railroad bridge, and all the way into, stopped in Sheffield as well. In fact, the company was based in Sheffield, but from Tuscumbia to Sheffield, across that bridge into Florence, and it came down Nellie Avenue. If you live here, you know where Nellie is, right up there. And then stopped right in front of Wesleyan Hall to let the students out and then pick them up in the afternoon. By the way, if you ever come down Nellie Avenue, you'll know the streetcar line was there because some of those rails have resurfaced. So be careful, your car, the struts in your car might suffer. But every so often, the city will repave that, and then that'll last a while, for several years, and then those tracks will surface once again all the way through it. But from about 1902 to 1932, we had a very efficient streetcar line here, and they positioned the tracks in very strategic places, and they considered this campus to be one of the strategic places to let the students out and whatever. So, now, let me talk about why you see this beautiful pedestrian campus. I would tell you that we have here the most beautiful campus in the whole wide world. And I'm not even a bit prejudiced. That is a totally objective statement, of course. But here's the story in case you don't know that. You're familiar with Frederick Law Olmsted, I'm sure. He was America's very first landscape architect. Opened his business in 1858 in another part of the country, somewhere in the Midwest, maybe Illinois. Anyway, and that company, though he had died, of course, and his sons took it over after him, but it stayed in business until actually about into the 1950s, maybe even as late as 1960. But in about 1928, the trustees of this university, which was then still Florence State Teachers College, they hired that company to design this campus the way you see it today. But we're talking 1928, and what happened 1 year later? The stock market crash starting the Great Depression. I never have quite got why we call it the Great Depression. There's nothing great about it, that's for sure, but people starving to death. But anyway, we call it that because it was worldwide. I know, I'm being funny. Anyway, you're supposed to chuckle. You didn't. Thank you very much. You got your tea right. but they didn't destroy those plans here. They rolled them up and put them away in a cabinet. And several years ago, they said it's time to do that, to get those plans out, and they did. And now we can truthfully say that this campus was designed by the one and only Frank Law Olmsted Company. I'll let you in on a little secret. Where the old Coffee High School, well, the second Coffee High School sat over on corner of Hermitage and Cherry, and the Brawley Stadium is there, now it's Florence Middle School. I made a discovery all on my own a few years ago, looking through some old documents. When that 25 acres was purchased from the Kernahan family, the Board of Education hired, guess what? The Frederick Law Olmsted Company to design that whole 25 acres. So that's why when I was in school at Coffee, Tom Brawley, the principal, said nothing will ever be built on that front lawn. We thought he was just being arbitrary. It was really because it was part of the overall design from the Frederick Law Olmsted Company. I think that's something to really to cheer about. He designed Central Park, for heaven's sake. He designed Yellowstone and many of the others. So anyway, our connection to the Frederick Law Olmsted Company. Wonderful, right? Yes, sir.